So obviously by the sound of my voice you guys know that I am not American, but if you guys subscribe to my channel you know that I have a really keen interest in American politics. Now American politics and history is probably one of my favourite things that I've studied and that I just have a personal interest in. I pretty much follow it more than I follow my own country's politics, the United Kingdom, and yeah, I've always just liked it even though it's been a massive shit show. And part of my master's degree and part of my history degree, I was sort of always looking at elements of, for example, US foreign policy or US history and like civil rights movement, everything like that, and things like the Vietnam War. So I do know a lot about it, and I would back my knowledge of the US system and US politics in general. So I'm not just like some random British guy just giving my random opinion on this. You know, I do really have a background in American studies. Now the 2020 election is fast approaching and obviously we're going to have the Democratic primary. I would also love it if we had a Republican primary, but I really doubt it because, you know, all the Republicans are just worshipping Donald Trump at this point, but that would be nice. But yeah, the Democratic primary is going to be very, very interesting because so many people have already stated that they're going to run for president. So you have people like Tulsi Gabbard, Elizabeth Warren, you have others like Kamala Harris, you have Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders, and you know, lots of other people could still declare their candidacy. And you have some other boring people that I can't even remember at this point, but I do know there are a couple more who've already declared it. But yeah, so that's sort of the race for the Democratic nominee. But there are obvious people that the establishment loves. So Kamala Harris sort of just seems like a new version of Hillary Clinton. The same way that Beto O'Rourke, who I didn't mention earlier, seems like a new version of Obama. They both seem like these trendy, popular politicians that really don't have much substance and are really favourites of the establishment because they aren't far left enough and they're really just, you know, neoliberal centrists. I wouldn't even call them centre left because in the global world of politics, you know, the Democratic Party are right wing. They're not, you know, leftists. People like Bernie Sanders maybe, but people like Kamala Harris aren't. Now what the presidency of Donald Trump has really exposed is how broken the American system is, and it has really woken a lot of people up. So many people in the presidential race are supporting Medicare for all, they're supporting the $15 minimum wage, you know, things that Hillary Clinton said that you couldn't even do last election cycle. And that's all thanks to people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren talking about this a lot. But why, as my video title suggests, I think Bernie Sanders is the only option is because you know that he is a passionate fighter for these things and he won't back down. He didn't jump on the bandwagon late. He's been fighting for this his whole time in politics. So as we all know, Bernie Sanders, you know, marched for civil rights, was arrested protesting for the civil rights movement. He's got a really good history advocating gay rights. You've probably seen that clip, but I'll put it up. But it's where a Republican congressman calls gay people homos, and then he calls them out on that.
Now my ears may have been playing a trick on me, but I thought I heard the gentleman a moment ago say something, quote unquote, about homos in the military. Was I right in hearing that expression?
Absolutely. Putting homosexuals in the military.
You said something about homos in the military. Was the gentleman referring to the many thousands and thousands of gay people who have put their lives on the line in countless wars defending this country? Was that the group of people that the gentleman was referring to?
I'm talking about the military. People in the military do not support.
That's not what we were talking about. You used the word homos in the military. You have insulted thousands of men and women who have put their lives on the line.
I'm talking about you and liberals like you that keep the foreign defense.
And there's lots of other examples of him advocating equal rights for gay people and everything. And then you've got his stance on interventions in the Middle East or in South America, and then you have his stance on workers' rights, on unions. He's just very, very consistent, and he has been his whole life. And that's why I don't really buy the argument that we need someone young, we need someone new. You can't trust people like Beto O'Rourke and Kamala Harris. Because, for example, if they do have a track record, like Kamala Harris, it's not a very good one. And if they don't know Beto O'Rourke, they have some personal dealings. Like, for example, Beto O'Rourke's dealings with the Israeli lobby and everything, and people weren't too happy about that when it was revealed after the election. He's like, you know, working together with the Israeli government, he was talking about that. And obviously, at the moment, the Netanyahu government is seriously, seriously unpopular. So I don't trust Beto O'Rourke. He reminds me of Obama, just really in it for himself. And he's very energetic and charismatic, but I don't see any policy positions that are really engaging or anything like that. And Kamala Harris, at her record, just reminds me of Hillary Clinton. It's proper centrist stuff. It's not anything in particular. And yeah, would it be nice to have a minority women as president? You know, like Tulsi Gabbard or Kamala Harris? Yeah, it would be, but I don't think that's a reason to put them in the presidency, because Bernie Sanders, like I said, is the best candidate based on policy, and then I'd go for Elizabeth Warren second, and then just a personal preference, Tulsi Gabbard third. But what you get with Bernie is that he's just so genuine, and he's been poor. You know, he's the son of Polish immigrants. You read his book, and he talks about living in his small apartment, growing up in 1940s New York, how poor he was. You know, even when he moved to Vermont, he's living in like some hut with like no heating and everything in that kind of temperature. Like, he's just a really, really humble and down-to-earth guy. And being a British person, I think this is why my perspective is sort of valuable. Being a British person who has a good knowledge on American politics, what you see in America today is quite insane to us, because, you know, obviously British politics at the moment is utterly fucked. You know, we're being destroyed by Brexit and the Tory party's Brexit in particular. You know, Tory party infighting and a leadership contest disguised as Brexit negotiations for the most part. But there's things that we've had in this country that America doesn't have, and we've had it since the 40s. So the NHS, I think, was established in 1948, or maybe 1947, but I'm pretty sure 1948, by the Atlee Labour government, and that gave, you know, socialised medicine to all people, so you wouldn't get bankrupted going to the doctor, or you wouldn't not go to the doctor because you're scared of paying all this money. If you need the healthcare, you can get it, and if you want private healthcare, you can get that too. And that is just a good thing, because, you know, most people in these countries, like the US today, or like the UK back then and today, they benefit from these things, and that's why you need them. And, you know, we've had it since the 40s, and we've had other things like more socialised policies since the 40s as well. But America still doesn't have this, and it's because it's brainwashed people through capitalism, through various red scares, that anything socialist is bad, and it means you're lazy, and it means you want handouts. You know, in America it's all about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. But the way the system is designed, that it doesn't matter for some people if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You can be working 3 jobs and still can't really survive on that. You still won't be able to pay for healthcare. You still get bankrupted by healthcare. And that's a big issue. And people like Kamala Harris and even Elizabeth Warren have walked back their support for like a socialised healthcare system. And that should be the number one issue for a lot of people, because it makes so much sense. It's done in most countries that have a good standard of living, even countries like Cuba or Vietnam. You know, Cuba has amazing healthcare because it's, you know, socialised healthcare, and that's surprising for a poor country like Cuba. But it's just something that the US needs to implement, and it's crazy it hasn't. And it just shows you how corrupt the politics is and how brainwashed the electorate is, especially on the Republican side, that they've never really clamoured for this. And that goes to show about how successful the elite in America have been at scaring people about socialism and demonising poor people like they all want handouts rather than they actually need help. Some of the hardest working people are poor people, and it's unfair to suggest that if you work 3 jobs, 2 jobs, if you work a really hard manual labour job, you shouldn't be able to afford healthcare. It's a right at this point, and like I said, in the UK we've had it since the 40s. But America still thinks you can't have it. Of course, there are many other things like about Bernie, particularly his foreign policy, and that goes in hand with people like Tulsi Gabbard as well. It's like non-interventionist and pulling out of all these unnecessary wars, cutting the military budget, and that is all very good. But another main thing like healthcare is his stance on climate change. He has been pushing climate change the hardest out of anyone. He was pushing it last election cycle. Hillary Clinton barely talked about it, and he's talking about restructuring the US economy to design it more to a green economy. And, you know, people who work in coal mining jobs and everything like that, he's going to try and provide them with new skills and new jobs so they can transition to this new economy. And it makes a lot of sense. And what I don't understand, for such a capitalist loving empire as America is, I don't know why people don't see the opportunity, the business opportunity in this new technology. And I think it's because, you know, the old white elite in the country, that there's, you know, it's their last attempt at holding on to power. So like with Trump talking about clean coal, talking about coal miners, everything, that's just the last breath of this old style of elite, because you can't hold on to something like that forever, because it's a finite resource for one, and it pollutes the world. So it's going to run out one day, and the jobs are going to go. And what are these people going to be left with? You know, you see in the UK we have places in like Wales, the massive mining towns, completely abandoned, destroyed people's lives because the jobs went. And then there was nothing for them afterwards because the coal mainly ran out and we stopped using coal as much. So you obviously have to diversify that economy, and that's something Bernie and people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have been pushing a lot, and that's the sort of candidate you need. And Bernie obviously calls out all the other shitty things in America. You know, whenever he talks about, you know, the money in politics, the elite's influence, you just agree with him so much because he speaks so much truth. He's totally genuine and totally honest. He doesn't care about what, you know, potential backers will do if he says these things, because he's funded by the people. $27 donations. He raised millions and millions within days of announcing his campaign, showing how popular he is. He fights for normal people and just common sense people. And that's what a lot of people like Kamala Harris and Beto O'Rourke and Cory Booker, they're going to be funded by PACs, by corporations, and they're going to be too scared to take it too far, just like Obama was when he was president. You know, Obama on the campaign is not the same Obama who was president. And that's what would happen with people like Kamala Harris, Cory Booker and Beto O'Rourke if they became president. They would talk a good game, they might even sound just like Bernie in the primary, they'd get into office and it'd be the exact same. It'd just be like Hillary Clinton was elected, it'd be like if Bill Clinton was re-elected or anything like that, it'd be the exact same. Neoliberal, centrist, right-leaning centrist at that, and nothing would really change. And then you might even get the Republicans back in office one day, because I think this is the chance to crush the Republicans for good, because they're in such a mess really with Trump. Because while they're controlling power at the moment, I think when the stuff gets exposed about Trump, you know, how corrupt he is and how corrupt the whole party is, I think it will be the death knell for the modern Republican Party, and I think maybe they'll split into different ones, but the Democrats have a real chance to crush them. And I think someone like Kamala Harris, like I was saying, Beto O'Rourke, the centrists, are not going to crush them. You need someone like Bernie or even Elizabeth Warren to come in and fundamentally change the system. And what you're going to see in the election cycle is just like in the UK, the establishment and the arms of the establishment, which include corporate media, are going to cover the other candidates way more favourably. They're going to attack Bernie, and you know that's going to happen because they don't want him to come in, because they know he sees how they exploit the current system for their own benefit. And what's going to happen is they're all going to smear him throughout the campaign, and hopefully, like with Trump and with everyone else, it will bounce off Bernie, because I think it will, because it's so hard to attack someone who's been so consistent and so genuine. And I just hope he wins this time. And I don't know why I get so invested in these things as a British person, but the thing is, America is the most powerful country in the world, and what happens there affects all of us. And maybe not directly, and maybe not immediately, but in the future it will. In terms of like climate change, for example, America is one of the biggest polluters. So you need someone to come in there and change the system. And I just hope America make the right choice. But I'm not hopeful because, you know, as we see with the Trump presidency and how the Republicans have stayed in office, there's a significant amount of the American electorate that are seriously uneducated to the point that they've been completely brainwashed by, you know, the Republican Party, and whether that's them clinging on to Christianity and things like that, things that really help, you know, thinking Trump is somehow a great Christian president. You know, someone who has had 3 wives and slept with a porn star while his 3rd wife was pregnant with his youngest son. You know, a very, very Christian president who also locks up migrant kids in cages at the border and, you know, does all this other shit. So, like, you can never really hope for things with America. But let's just hope they made the right choice. You know, they elected Jimmy Carter once, and, you know, maybe that will happen again with all this stuff. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like the video. If you like this type of content, please subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at the Kavernacle, the same on Instagram. I also have a WordPress where I try and write an article about once a week. That's the Kavernacle WordPress. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.